Well, whenever you have a chance, we'll tell you the greatest story ever told.
Fair
That
enough.
that's a good one.
Hey everyone, it's Vice. Welcome to Making Wrestling Work. We are pulling back the curtain, figuring out what makes wrestling what we know and love. I am here today with my good friend and longtime local legend in New Mexico, not just local actually, the mighty Thunder. Hey Thunder, how you doing today, man?
Good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Dude, it's so exciting to have you here. So you've been doing this for quite some time. By my count, about 26, 27 years.
Yeah.
Do I have that about right?
That's about right. Yeah. 27 years. Pretty close.
It's been a long road for you, man. You started out 26, 27 years ago. And where did that come up? What got you into this industry?
Well, honestly, man, growing up, I just always wanted to be a wrestler. Like I did it. I just watched it. And then every day I just wanted to do it and do it and do it. I mean, thank God for my little brother who let me abuse him every single day. I wanted to play wrestling every single day. And you know what? He was a good sport about it. And he pretty much played with me every single day. We dressed up as our favorite personas, and we did all the deal. We had the radio, we had the music blasting, we did have entrances, we would do crazy stuff off the couches. We had like this middle den in our house, and it was in the middle of the house, so that was our main ring and our fortress of what we did in the wrestling. And thank God for my little brother. Long strenuous days of me bugging him to wrestle and my grandparents yelling at me to shut up and to stop. And, it was just fun. And that's, kind of where it started. That's where the fire ignited,
It's a lot of backyard then. That's what it was. Yeah. Like most of us did when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then we got a trampoline as we got older, in my high school years, and we'd just do it there on the trampoline. And, my cousins would join in, and thank God for my cousins too, because they let me beat the crap out of them also, and let me do all these cool moves on them. And it was just fun. We weren't dangerous or anything. We didn't jump off the roof or any crazy stuff like that, like Mick Foley style, but we still had some fun. It was pretty fun.
Well, that's awesome. And that got you into, that actually got you into training.
Yes.
About, I want to say somewhere 97, 98. Do I have that about right?
Yeah, 98. It was August. Let's see. I can give you the exact date. It was August 19th, 1998. And the only reason I remember that, it was a few days from my first wedding. And my first wedding was August 22nd. So it was a couple of days before that when I started training. And the thing is, I always wanted to be a wrestler, right? So I graduated high school. When I graduated high school, I walked the line, or I did the Ric Flair all the way down, all the way across the whole stage. It was like the Ric Flair, Jeff Jarrett mix, right? So I just did the strut, and then I did this, everybody cheered in high school, and it was fine and dandy and good. And about 10 months later, I started working at Walmart, and I went purely started working after high school to save up money to go to the power plant, because the WCW had their premier school, right?
Oh yeah.
So it was called the power plant. So I was saving up money to go to Atlanta to go to the power plant. And I talked to everybody at work, and I would talk. I mean, that's all I did was talk about wrestling. I just ate, slept, and dreamed about wrestling. That's all I wanted to do is wrestle. So I'd go to work and I just wanted to wrestle. Go to work, wanted to wrestle. And one of the guys at work, he was an older gentleman. He's like, "Oh, hey, there's a professional wrestler who lives in town." And I was like, "No way." And I've heard of another one when I was in high school that lived in town. Actually, I went and baled hay for him. Like, I think I was in the 11th grade. And he was a pretty neat guy. He gave me one of my first beers, actually. These wrestlers are a bad influence. Well, either way, I went, and he's like, his wife works in the Vision Center. So I went to the Vision Center and I talked to his wife, and she introduced me to him. And first day, big dude, like 6'5", 380 pounds, just a beast of a man. I mean, huge. They called him the animal. He had animal written on his arm over here, just right down his arm, animal Baka. Oh, he's just a big guy. I go in there, introduce myself. He's all, "You're a little small kid." And I was like, "I'd like to train you." He's like, "Oh, well, be at my house at 7 tonight and we'll see what you got." And sure enough, made it to his house. Actually, Hobo was there. Hobo Hank was there for my first day of training. No,
Yeah.
actually, Hobo wasn't there the first day of training. It was actually the Widowmaker and the Animal. And Widowmaker was another one of my buddies, my longtime friends, CJ Patterson. And he's about 6'6", 280. So two big guys. I get there, get into the ring with them, and they just beat the living crap out of me that first day.
Classic initiation.
Yes, classic.
Old school initiation, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah. Actually, they made me roll for like, I got to say, about 2 hours. All I did was rolls.
Wow.
2 hours of rolls before we even did anything else, right? And that's how he trained. He was like, "You're going to roll for 2 hours until you get rolls correct." And luckily, I'm pretty athletic and I got rolls right away. So just the 2 hours was just based on cardio. And after the 2 hours, they slammed me a bunch of times and put me here, there, and everywhere. And, he's like, "Oh, okay, if you show up tomorrow, then we'll know you're serious."
And sure enough, you showed up.
And sure enough, I showed up the next day and they couldn't believe it. I mean, I could barely move when I woke up the next morning. I don't know if you ever seen any of those how to be a wrestler videos like in the early 2000s. You know how they had these documentaries, right? And the one guy talked about how his ass like hurt for like a month just from rolling and buffing. And that's true. I mean, that was the first body part that hurt so bad. And I couldn't even use the bathroom for like maybe a week. It was just excruciating pain. And I showed up the next day and they did it all over to me again. And then he's like, "If you show up tomorrow, then we'll know you're serious." Showed up the next day. "You show up tomorrow, then we'll know you're serious." And then I became a fly on his freaking shoulder, and then he couldn't get rid of me. So
you were dead set on making this for yourself. That's awesome. And it was right around not long behind Hobo Hank. Talked to him, and he said that you guys had some of the same intro to the wrestling industry. And I think that's right. You guys kind of went parallel to each other, more or less. Is that right?
So he was there, like, I think my second or third night he was there. And me and him really hit it off right away. Like, I had no idea that we were going to hit it off so well, and he was not smaller by any means, but he was smaller than those guys. So he kind of had he kind of was filling the wrath of another small guy with those big guys. You know what I mean? Because there were some other wrestlers that were huge that were going at the same time. So now we kind of just built a friendship there. And, it's been a friendship for close to 27 years. Yeah. Side by side. So
it's a long time. And you show no signs of stopping at all, in my opinion.
No, I mean, honestly, right now, I feel like I'm near my prime. I thought I hit my prime in my 30s, and I haven't. I mean, my knee is actually feeling better, and I can actually jump over the rope now, and I can jump off the top rope again. I mean, I feel good, and my body is like probably in the best condition it's been since I've wrestled.
So you go into training, and there's always that process of building your character, creating your persona. Did you go through several before you get to Thunder?
Well, in the golden age of wrestling, you really minded what your trainer said. You know what I mean? You didn't have a whole lot of creative control in what you did. It was whatever the promoter and the trainer wanted, right? So I call it the tail end of the golden age of wrestling. Because back in the day, you didn't know who you were wrestling on shows. You would just show up in the show and you didn't share a locker room with your opponent. So you had no idea what you were going to do. So our trainer taught us how to work. We call it work, right? Making wrestling work. We call it working.
That's right.
So you have to go out there and work with this person based on signals, based on, collaboration and how you guys can mend together. Some matches are good and some matches are bad, but there was not a lot of egos back then. There was egos, but not like it is now, right? If he went and told me you're going to lose in 3 minutes, I went and lost in 3 minutes. We just minded what the promoter and the trainer said at the time, right? We didn't have a whole lot of creative control. We didn't argue back or anything like that. Because if you argued back or you had any kind of input that they didn't like, you're out. Just get out of here. We don't need you. And that's exactly how they faced it. And that's how we learned, And actually, I'm glad I learned that way and not the way that some of the guys are learning now. Because now they want to be superstars at their first match. And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, a lot of people, you go out and they say, hey, you're the garbage man. Make it work for you until you find something for yourself. When was that point that you found something for yourself?
So he tells me, go home and do some homework, right? I need you to come up with like 5 names and we'll sit down and we'll think of what we could do for you. Okay. So I went home, thought long and hard, and I was like, oh man, I seen Rain off of Mortal Kombat. And I was set on that name. Set on Rain. I'm going to be Rain. And then I don't even know the 3 other ones. I know I came up with 5, but I don't know what the 3 other ones. And then the one that clicked was Kid Thunder. So I told him Kid Thunder, and he's all, that's it. Kid Thunder. And I was like, real? Just right away off the bat. And he's like, you're Kid Thunder. And he's all, and the reason being is because I have an idea. And I said, okay, well, what's your idea? He's like, there's a guy named Kid Garcia in Amarillo, Texas. And we're going to bring you and we're going to pair you guys together. It's going to be Kid Thunder and Kid Garcia. And that's basically where Thunder came from. I was Kid Thunder, I think, for my first 5 years. And then I started wrestling in El Paso. And Hurricane Hector pulled me aside and he's like, I'm going to make you some new gear. So not that your gear is bad, but your gear is bad. He's all, I'm going to have a new set of gear.
Best critique I've heard.
Yeah. It's not that your gear is like generic, but it's pretty generic, dude. So he's all, I have some new gear for you when you come back. So, and over there, we wrestled weekly in El Paso. It was every Thursday night, and then it went to every Saturday night. I think they were doing the Thunder and the SmackDown nights. So we would wrestle in between commercial breaks for the audience. They would have Thunder on all these big screen TVs, right? Thunder and SmackDown. And then we would wrestle in between. And then it went to Saturdays shortly after, and we would go once a week. So then I get there, and he gives me my new gear, and my new gear doesn't say Kid on it. It just says Thunder across the, it was a singlet and it says Thunder. And from that day on, I was like, I dropped the Kid and I was just Thunder.
Was it even the actual logo, the WCW logo?
No, it wasn't the WCW logo. Actually, I still have the patches from my first day. They're actually on another pair of tights. So I'll have to show you one of these days what the Thunder logo look like. So
it's such a journey to go through. You've done a lot in New Mexico, not just in New Mexico. I mean, you branched out. I've seen you wrestle in Texas, up in Colorado. And you've taken titles in those places.
Yes.
But there was always something special about New Mexico for you.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
It is because that's where we're from, and that's, my heart's here, of course. And, a lot of indie shows don't happen here in New Mexico. So it's even special, right? So I think the amount of indie shows by the time 2014, somewhere around there rolled around, I think it's maybe 10 indie shows in New Mexico. And two of them, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 of them were me and Hobo ran them. And then the other 2 was my trainer. He ran them. That was just in New Mexico, reservation. Of course, we went to the reservations a bunch because that's where my trainer liked to do it, because the reservations, the commission can't touch in the reservations. So
now there are so many, regulations in New Mexico, like several other states. So you find a workaround sometimes.
Yeah.
So you've been wrestling this long in New Mexico and elsewhere. Eventually you get into training. How long has that been going on now?
How long?
Like training other wrestlers?
Training other wrestlers? I think I've been training other wrestlers since the beginning, really. Like 3 years in, my trainer would trust me to train new guys to come in the business. And then I would train them to do the rolls and the bumps and stuff like that. And then when we actually really started training, me, Hobo Hank, and Mosh Pit Mike bought a ring, right? And we were all together. And that was probably about 2005, 6, somewhere around there. I can't recall what year it was. So we purchased this ring and we just started training at Hobo's house. And from there, and we welcomed all kinds of different people to come train with us. And some of them, most of them did stick around. There's a few, like Sid the Kid, that came and trained with us, and at that time he's still around. He's not very active, but he could still wrestle.
Oh yeah, and finding wrestling training is sometimes difficult. You have some of the schools, they brand themselves. They get a building, but there's always the wrestling trainers, the coaches that they do the backyard training.
Yeah.
And that doesn't say anything bad about the quality of it. I can say so from experience. I've seen you do your thing.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult to find that kind of quality sometimes.
Yeah.
And how do you get those students to come in? Do you advertise for that, or how do they find you at all?
They'll ask. People will just hit me up. They'll see my pages, and they'll ask where I train, or who trained me, or if I'm training with somebody, or if I train folks. And I'll say, hey, you're welcome to come and, come train with us. And it's mostly people that go to shows and then they ask, how do I get into this? How do I start training? And then I say, hey, just hit me up here and we'll set you up with a program and you can come train with us.
Social media is always a good network button.
Yeah.
So you've wrestled for, 26, 27 years. You've trained other wrestlers, and now you have new generations coming in.
Yeah.
Over the years, and these are guys, and these are men and women that are still learning their craft, figuring out where their spot is. And you've been in the ring with a lot of these individuals. What's the contrast to the talent coming in now as opposed to what it used to be?
I'd have to say, before I get into the contrast, that it's a really hard on your body. And some people don't have a high pain. You got to have a high pain threshold. You have to have a high pain threshold to be a professional wrestler, right? So I've seen guys come in and they work for, they train for months, right? And then they get into a match situation, and match situations compared to training situations are completely different. It's like 100 times worse on your body in a match than it is in a training, right? So after they leave a match, I've had guys come and they have one match and they're like, I'm done. That's it. I can't do it no more. I thought training was rough. I thought I hurt after training. I hurt now. after a match, and this is the pain that I don't think I want to live with, you know. And unfortunately, that's part of the business. You got to live with pain every single day. There's not a day where I don't feel it in my back, on my shoulder, on my knee, or just anywhere that, all these aches and pains that you get throughout the years. So, contrast to the trainees then and now, I think, I don't know, like it varies. Like there were some guys with heart back then, and there are some guys with no heart back then, and there's some guys with heart now. And it's about the heart. Like, do you really want it, and do you have a passion for it? Because you have to have that first and foremost. Your talent and everything, it ain't nothing unless you have a passion for it. Because if you don't put 100% of hard work and dedication into it, you're not going to be very successful in wrestling.
Yeah, I'd agree. You've worked with a lot of these individuals, and I see how you are backstage. With the rest of the locker room, you seem to be the person that anybody can talk to, that anybody can get advice from. It's the golden personality backstage. I got to tell you,
yeah.
Is that just a goal of yours, or are you just genuinely a nice guy?
I think I'm genuinely like that. I'm generally a leader, and in my shoot life, I'm been a manager for over 20 years, right? So I'm just generally that leader that can lead people. And it's just something I have in me. It's not that I portray it and want to do it. You know what I mean? It's just something I have. And I really like to pay back, and I really like to see people be successful. And I'm not envious of people. I want to see anybody that I can help flourish. That's just me. That's just how I am, and probably how I always will be.
You really are just a true believer in just making wrestling go on, making wrestling continue. That's amazing. Yeah. Then you work in the ring. You're not a daredevil per se in the ring, but you have a style about you in the ring. And does it worry you to work certain ways in the ring if it becomes too dangerous, or if it comes too hectic, chaotic, anything like that? Honestly,
I just trust my muscle memory. And I mean, that's why you train, right? So let's go back to when I was training. I was going 6 days a week, I think, for at least 8 years. I was in there 6 days a week, right? So I know the ring back and forth, and I know my body back and forth, right? I've taken falls like outside of work, like say I'm working on the air conditioner and I fall off the roof or something. You know what I mean? I know my body so well that I can fall and not be injured. And that's happened several times in my life where I just fell and I was able to get back up. And just because of all that muscle memory. So when you get into those situations, Tim, it takes a lot of time to slow your mind down. And that's what I try to teach the wrestlers, right? That slower, you got to go slow. You got to really, like, have you ever seen like Flash or Superman or Spider-Man, right? How they're running so fast, but they're in slow motion and they can see everything around them, right? That's how you have to be in wrestling. Like when I'm in that ring, everything has to go that slow for me so I could see everything transpire. And that's how come I can be so safe that I'm not really nervous whenever I wrestle anybody, because I can pretty much wrestle anybody.
I've seen it, and that's proven time and time again. I mentioned that to mention one of the more dangerous, quote unquote, dangerous matches that you had with Hobo Hank, Steel Cage, Rio Rancho.
Yes.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. What's going through your head going into this match that you're doing a steel cage with somebody you've known your entire career? And how much chaos are you hoping to not get into?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Me and him, I don't know if he told you this in his interview, but me and him have been dreaming of that match for at least 20 years.
No, he did not tell me that.
That match was 20 years in the making. Me and him have always, like, that night was so special to me. And I know it was special to him. And it's hard to crack him sometimes. You know what I mean? Because he's a hard person to crack.
Oh, yeah, believe me, it is.
But I'm going to tell you what, he dreamed of that night as long as I dreamed of that night. And no matter what we were going to do to each other, we were ready for it. It was just something that we have been wanting and anticipating for half our life. You know, we just wanted to do that one spectacle. I mean, I want to do it again. And honestly, it came and it went so fast that, I mean, I wish it was still here. Like, I wish that moment was still here. It was unbelievable.
I don't see why you can't do it again.
Yeah.
The rematch.
The rematch.
Let's make it happen. We'll make the cage lower and everything this time.
Yeah.
I think it's so awesome that you have all this history about you. We can't even go over all of it in this interview, which I'm sure we will later on. Little piece I want to mention is Wrenchy. How did Wrenchy come about? What's the history with this?
Wrenchy's fairly new. Okay. Wrenchy's maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
So Wrenchy called to me during the pandemic. There was a circus that got stuck in Roswell during the pandemic.
Okay.
And just one night, like, I just had the cold shivers, and, you know, I don't know, it just was a weird feeling that came upon me. Okay. And I was a district manager at the time. So I traveled to Roswell, Hobbs, Artesia, all that good stuff. Well, something just kept calling me. So I was driving through Roswell through the pandemic, and that circus is there and it's abandoned. And just something was calling me to stop there. So I stopped, and lo and behold, I saw this beautiful wrench just there, right? And it spoke to me, and I got wrenchy, and I held it, and when I grabbed it, it just gave me this amazing power inside. And in my head, it felt like I went through a century of just so much stuff going on. And what Wrenchy is he's only comes around every 100 years. Okay.
Okay.
Wrenchy was actually held by a circus strongman in the 1920s. And his name was Thunder Von Doom. So me being Thunder, Wrenchy called to me, and I call it the Ghost Wrench. And the Ghost Wrench is like, the ghost means greatest of all space and time. So only one out of a century can yield and hold Wrenchy. And I was chosen by the Ghost Wrench to yield him. After Thunder Von Doom died, it stayed in that circus, but nobody can wield it. It just stayed with the circus folk. And it called to me. And that's the story of Wrenchy.
How do I react to that story? I have no reaction to that story. I'm flabbergasted. That's Ghost, greatest of all space and time.
Yes.
There's going to be a shirt.
The Ghost Wrench. It's going to
be a shirt.
And so I told that story to the elementary kids, and I mean, they were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe it. They really, I mean, it is an interesting story. Like, that is something amazing. And it was right there in the pandemic.
Pandemic does a lot of things.
Yeah.
So where do you see your career landing at here in the next few years? You said you're in the prime. I sense there's no slowing down, but at some point there's gotta be. But maybe in the ring. Are you somebody, after doing this for so long, are you somebody that's going to walk away from wrestling entirely at all? Or eventually, if you stop wrestling, would you still involve yourself in it?
Yes.
Part?
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna say it like when people ask me, I'll probably just be doing this till I die. Like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be. I don't know if I'm gonna be wrestling and doing matches and working, but I know I'm gonna be a big part of wrestling. Whether it's training folks, whether it's managing, whether it's doing something, I will. It will always be a part of my heart, and that's just where it's gonna be. Like, that's. I don't think I'm gonna ever give it up.
There's been talk in parts of the wrestling community, of the similarities of you in your wrestling capability, your situation, your history, to that of other individuals in history, such as The Undertaker, Sting, those individuals who need no gold to make their place.
Yeah.
That as soon as the music hits, the emotion, the excitement, everything just swarms over. And if this isn't the main event, it's one of them, even if it's halfway through the show.
Yes.
That's apparently how people are looking at you now, as that prolific individual. Does that make you feel any pressure? Does that make you feel maybe you have to really work to live up to it?
Honestly, it doesn't. Like, right now, I'm just really having fun and just doing my thing, I'm flabbergasted that people actually think of that of me. That's actually awesome. That makes me feel really good that, all the hard work and dedication that I've put into this, business is being seen that like that. That's just amazing.
I mentioned that to you, I think, at a show one time, and that's because I overheard a couple of people saying something like that, and I dug into it, and yeah, more than one person, that's for sure, is saying that. So I don't know how the wrestling community as a whole, but I've heard it quite a few times. Oh, wow. So I think that's very much a term of endearment in my mind, and I'd have to agree. That's kind of where you're at in my mind after all this time. Longtime wrestling, you've gone through so many matches, a lot of memories. Is there one match somewhere that sticks out in your mind? Maybe your most favorite, maybe the most important, just key match in your career?
I mean, we've already touched base on the cage match, so I'm not really gonna, go back to that one. In my tender, I think one of the most matches that I was super proud of, and I felt like I made it, is when I got booked against Simbodi, and he was fresh out of WWE, and that was like a big deal to me. That was a big deal to my heart, and for me to actually face somebody with such prestige, and we had a good, solid match. I mean, I couldn't be any happier with that match. That's like one of my favorites. Hurricane Hector was, man, that was but a dream wrestling that day. Like, he was just so amazingly, like, it was like a dance. Like, when I walked in there with him, I really felt like I was, like, when you wrestle somebody that good, you feel like you're a puppet and they're just playing with you and you're dancing and doing your deal. And that match was amazing. And then Mark Youngblood, that one is up there also, because Mark Youngblood and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat were NWA Tag Team Champions back in the day.
That's right.
And WCW Tag Team Champions, right? And when I wrestled him, and when Chris Youngblood had to cheat to beat me, for Mark Youngblood to beat me for my championship, that right there was like, this guy was it. You know what I mean? Jay and Mark were were it in the 80s. They were the greatest wrestlers, and their father, Ricky Romero, was the greatest wrestler in the 1970s. So the prestige of even being in the ring with those guys and actually competing with them, that's just, it's amazing. Like that. And I was young, and it was amazing. I loved it.
So you still got a lot of time in your career. You're going to wrestle till you die, apparently. Any matches you want to cross off your list?
Man, I can't say. I've done every match you could think of. I've done hardcore, I've done tables, I've done ladders, I've done cage match, I've done barbed wire matches. I've done everything.
And as everybody.
Yeah. As for wrestling somewhere else, like, you know, I would love, like, I think I can go and wrestle in AEW. Don't get me wrong, but I'm so torn between my family and putting the dedication into getting to somewhere like that. You know what I mean? So I'm torn. I'm so torn because I love my family and I don't want to miss anything with them. And they are my heart. You know, wrestling's my heart. They are my heart. But I think they hold my heart a little bit more than what wrestling does. I mean, I would love to go wrestle for them. I would, but I'm still in there about it. You know, my wife tells me almost every day, every time I put on wrestling show and I say, I think I could be there. She's like, you should just go do it. Just go do it. Just go do it. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? A rainy day? What are you waiting for? And I'm just so torn between the family and that. But that's where I would like to be. I'd at least like to go and do some kind of stint with, you know, TNA, WWE, or AEW. Just real quick. It doesn't have to be forever, you know. Just go do something fun. Yeah.
You're such a stand-up guy in real life, and yet you can create such a heel persona. When you won the DCCW championship, you changed up the persona, changed up the attitude, I should say. And was that a genuine fun time for you? Like, what's more fun for you, doing the babyface, doing the heel?
Oh, the heel is fun. The heel is fun because you can let go. And you can basically tell people what you want to tell them on an everyday basis and not get in trouble for it, right? But I mean, honestly, that's the fun part of being a heel. And I always tell my students, I do not want you to be heels right away. The reason being, it's easier to be a heel than it is to be a face. Because a face, you have to work hard and you have to get people to believe in you. They have to believe that you're their hero. Heel, you can go out there and just, you don't have to talk to them. You don't have to acknowledge them. You don't have to do anything to them. You know what I mean?
But it's easier to dismiss a character than to believe in it.
Yes.
So you want to get used to the work before you have the easy route.
Yeah. So I want them to be baby faces. I want them to go and put in the work and make people believe that they're a hero. But you still have to make people believe you're a heel. Because if you get out there and you have a flat heel and a flat baby face, you're just going to have it's never going to work. You know what I mean? I've seen that happen also. And I've seen where there was not a good baby face and the baby face was trying to work heel and the heel was trying to be heel, but not really acknowledge the crowd and that. And I've seen it just, you know, barrel down and crash. And it's not very good when you get one of those matches. It's kind of uncomfortable, actually.
I call it a work because it takes effort.
Yes.
It takes a lot. It's not easy to just go out there and be somebody or not. Yeah. You have to actually try and address the crowd, get them moving in one way or another. So that's really good advice. Start, baby, and you'll learn. Well, thank you so much for joining us, man. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with next.
Thank you.
I hope that it keeps going on for quite some time, man.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I want to keep going. I want to keep moving and grooving and just doing my thing, you know. Just performances. I love performing. I just love doing it. It's just something deep down inside. Like when you hit that curtain, it's just something else, man. Like you just turn into somebody else, and you're just like, you grow wings and you fly, and you get to do that, and to do that in front of hundreds of people, it's so. I mean, the gratitude and the feeling you get, it's amazing. Truly is.
Well, thank you for joining us, Thunder. Where can we find you, man?
Thank you. All my social media, Solarac Thunder. That's everywhere. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. That's Facebook. That's TikTok. You name it, it's there. Twitter, you're probably not going to find me doing anything on there because I don't think I've logged in like 10 years, so don't even try there. But everywhere else, yeah. And then you can find me at Duke City Championship Wrestling every month. As long as they'll have me, I'll be gracious, you know. And then around, let's see, I'm in Still City Championship Wrestling, I think every other month for the next year or so. Other than that, I kind of just want to stay home with my family. If I go for future bookings, I'll do it. But for right now, I'm pretty happy with that.
Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody else around later on.